Hi, I'm Tom Moller. This is the 94.7 FM The Word Book Club, and I have a very special guest, and she's part of the 94.7 family. She's the author of Mom, You Are Amazing, and the contraction is Mom, You're Amazing, and Jenny Dean Schmidt is my guest. Jenny Dean?
Thank you so much for welcoming me to your show.
You bet. It. You bet. And I'm so glad. You and I have talked at the beginning of your channel, Mom, and when I said you're part of the 94.7 FM family is Channel Mom.
Yeah.
And Channel Mom has birthed Mom, You're Amazing.
Yeah, in many ways. I mean, my motherhood birthed both. And Channel Mom started sort of as an S corporation, very, very, very tiny, 18 years ago, but when my daughter was about a year. So almost 19 years ago now. And Channel Mom came out of that, and then we became a 501c3. And when we became a 501c3, we moved over to this family, to the Salem family in Caracas. And then I began to hear God whispering to me that I needed to write a book that went along with all of the outreach and the ministry that I was doing on behalf of mothers and children, really. I knew that I needed to talk about it. So and talk to mothers in particular, and for mothers.
And I do want to say with Channel Mom, when you and I talked at first on the radio on Along the Way, it was just sort of starting. You were envisioning going national with the program, and that's taking place now.
Yes, praise God.
Yeah.
We are now in 11 markets other than the Denver market, and so we're slowly reaching some tentacles across the nation, so more moms can be encouraged.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point of the show. I mean, what I used to be fond of saying is you go to the content on TV or on a phone or whatever, and the only thing that really spoke to the mother was the ads, because they all knew that moms do 85% of household spending. Yeah. So they would give you a vacuum ad that showed a pretty little mom, but when they got back to the content of the actual programming, people weren't respecting or honoring the mother.
Yeah.
And so I felt so strongly that there should be media that had content that honored the mother and what she's up to 24/7 and all the tasks she has to fulfill, and the fact that she's raising the next generation. And people are not acknowledging that.
Yeah.
And they need to be cheered on, those moms.
And so your mission really is to elevate motherhood to its rightful position.
Correct. Yes, it is. And we'll get to this, but I had a backstory that brought me there to think, oh, this is really important and no one's saying it. So that's why I did it.
And I do want to talk about the book too, but I first want to talk about your own background. TV background, TV reporter, local as well as network reporting. And I see the reporter in the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was a wise person. And I think actually from a publishing company that didn't end up publishing it, but a large publishing company person said something like, you need to make use of your tools as a reporter and write this book as a reporter would. And that prompted me to say, oh yeah, this is what I know how to do.
Yeah.
And so I did sort of write it as a reporter. Yeah.
And the book has profiles, 8 moms.
Correct.
8 moms, and of all statures. But chapter 1, fittingly, is Jenny Dean Schmidt.
Yes, and my publisher made me do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I originally had 7 moms. I have a thing about numbers, and I have a thing about God's numbers. And I believe 7 is God's whole and complete number, so I was just going to do 7 moms. And my publisher said, no, you need to tell your story first so people understand the voice that is telling all the other stories. So he made me add that chapter. And I thought I was trying to be all humble and not include myself, but as it turns out, it was a good thing to add that chapter.
I think it was magnificent. I really do. Because one of the things I like to do when I do these interviews is to find out about the person behind the book or the person behind whatever. And I always ask people, when did you come to know the Lord? And I get a little testimony as to how they came to know the Lord. What was your background that brought you to write this book? Because it really does fill in the places. I think people like to know the person.
Yeah, because then they have more investment.
Yeah, right.
If they sort of just have this third person voice that's that's telling them a story, they don't feel a connection.
Yeah.
But now, because I shared some pretty gritty stuff, and now they know who is telling the rest of the stories and where she comes from.
So let me start with the first one. Obviously, you're a Christian.
Yes, I am.
Tell me how you came to know the Lord.
Well, that's a long story, so I'll try to abbreviate it.
Keep it short.
Yeah. Interesting.
We want time to do the book.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for making time for the book. It's a sensitive story to tell because I grew up in a family of almost all unbelievers, sophisticated academics, and I've certainly told this story on the air before. But when you come from an environment like that, I think it's very hard for people with that kind of training to believe the simple truth of the Bible. They think, no, it's God. Science has changed this. Our perspective throughout history has grown in its maturity. Surely this simple story of salvation cannot be the truth. There are many truths, and there are many religions, and they all have good points, you know. And so I think it's hard for people that consider themselves sophisticated to say this is the real deal, you know. So I grew up, and my dad's actually a theologian. He graduated from the University of Chicago with his PhD, and I can't remember what the end of that is when it's in religion, but his was. He studied under a really well-known gentleman named Paul Tillich, was a big process theologian, and people knew who he was. Anyway, what happened was I grew up in that household. I developed a habit of fear, and really it was fear in the end that drove me to the God of the universe. But we'll fast forward. I had two dreams. One was to marry my nursery school sweetheart. One was to be a TV reporter. Both of them happened. And then when I went into television, and yes, a shout out to my husband, Mike. I married my nursery school. I've known him for 54 years, which gives away my age. But I also became a television reporter, and I moved my way up the ranks in TV, and my largest market, I think, was the 13th largest, Cleveland, in the U.S. And so I had like that measure of fame. We didn't have little handheld things in our hand. There was only one screen in town. There weren't millions of screens, iPads and phones, etc. So you had a little bit of fame, whatever market you were in. So I took myself really seriously. Well, in that market, I lost my job when a new news director came on board and wanted to hire his people, and my contract was up, and he thought, yeah, well, thanks, but bye-bye.
Typical, very typical.
Well, it was right after I'd had my first child. And again, this is longer than it needs to be, but people are going to get the context of how motherhood entered into my story that coincided with God. I did not think I would have children because TV was my religion. And I thought TV was what defined me. It gave me a sense of almost immortality, that I would live forever on video, that it gave me a sense of significance and importance. People treated me differently because I was on TV. Sure. When they saw me at a party, they'd want my autograph or something. So TV was my religion. I lost my religion when I lost my TV job. It was right after I'd had a baby. I suddenly got this aha moment that I wanted to have a baby. I went through infertility and the whole 9 yards, had the baby, lost my TV job, and there I sat without my religion. And I lost my identity, and I entered into a deep postpartum depression and true darkness for about 1.5 years. And in that time, I went on a search for God. And do you have any questions before I finish the end of the story?
No, go ahead. No, you were a mother at that time.
I was a mama.
Okay.
And the good thing about the way my postpartum unfolded was I didn't feel bad about my baby. Some mamas feel just horrible about their, unfortunately they feel homicidal, and I didn't feel that way. But I wasn't happy, and I knew I wasn't a happy mama because I was depressed all the time. So in the midst of that, we moved from Cleveland to Denver. I got a TV job in Denver. I was still raising our child. My TV job was only part-time, which ended up being a good change. I thought I was going to be a full-time TV reporter and just my child would be in daycare. But man, did God change things for me. Long story short, and this really is the end of the story now, I had a day where I thought to myself, I need to get over myself. I'm being too self-focused in this darkness and depression. I took my son to a Special Olympics event. He was about 1.5. We went to a Special Olympics event, and I remember walking around a garden as I was there. And I thought to myself, if these people cannot cheer me up, I don't know who can. But I was sort of beginning to have a conversation with a God. And I cried out and said, this isn't, please help me. This isn't helping me. I want to get past my fear and my worry and my sadness and my depression. Then I went to my parents' house. They weren't there. I think my son was asleep in the car seat. I went into their master bathroom, threw myself on the floor, and I remember saying, I don't care if my family thinks this is stupid. Jesus, will you please save me? There was not a lightning strike moment, but I got up off that floor. I took my baby, brought him back up to our little mountain home in Bailey, Colorado. It was getting dark. My husband was still at the Special Olympics. Flicked on the lights, went in the house, brought my son up to the upstairs bedroom to change him in his little bedroom. Flicked on the radio. I wasn't a Christian, so I didn't listen to Christian music. Put him on the changing table, began to change my son. And as I was changing him, he reached up to pull me down to himself, to hug me in the middle of a change. And he was a boy, so that was a little dangerous. And I remember, thinking, this is all right, here's a hug. Pulled myself back up to continue the changing. Well, this happened 4 or 5 times. He kept reaching up to pull me down to himself. And I thought, this is so weird. He's never done this before. So the final time that my 1.5-year-old reached up to give Mama a hug during the changing was done. I remember thinking to myself, this is so odd. He looks like a man. He had the wisdom of a man. He had the maturity. He was insistent. He was strong. And I thought, I guess I'll just let my baby boy hold me in his arms. So I put my head on his chest and just let him hold me on the changing table. And as I was laying there, I began to listen to the song that was on the radio. And the song that was on the radio this was right after I'd asked Jesus into my life. The song that was on the radio was What a Friend We Have in Jesus. And in that song it says, in his arms, he will take and hold thee. You will find your solace there. And I remember thinking, I stood up from my little boy holding me in his arms and thinking to myself, if I don't believe it tomorrow, I believe it today. And he never did that again. And people can say, oh, you read too much symbolism into that. But I knew, I didn't listen to Christian music. Somehow God made that song come on the radio. It spoke to exactly what was happening. Jesus was once a baby boy, and he held me, my son held me in his arms, and it changed everything for me. And I suddenly felt the Spirit of God in my life, and he showed me that his light is the true light compared to the spotlight that I was in television, and then everything changed.
And that experience absolutely destroys rampant religious intellectualism. I mean, you just say, well, you can intellectualize all you want, but I know what I know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the fact that TV was your religion. And the Lord has a way of destroying our religions.
Our idols, yes.
Our idols, until we discover Him as the way, the truth, and the life. I want to read a quote that you have on page 18 in your chapter about yourself. And I can relate to this. I faced a long, very tough transition from being labeled important as a TV broadcaster to being not important as a mom. Hence your mission with Channel Mom. I can relate to that because I was a rock and roll disc jockey in the 60s and in Santa Barbara, well known in the 60s. Moved to Denver, and I don't know, 20 years later or something, I was vacationing in Santa Barbara at a big event, and I looked around and I thought, nobody knows who I am. I mean, I did not like that feeling.
No.
I was always used to wherever I'm walking into, whatever group I'm walking. Oh, there's Tommy. I was Tommy Moller. Because there's Tommy Moller, and I was not on any kind of look at me mission, but I just really felt like it's always been that way, and I come back and it's not that way. You went through that too.
I did, and I do blame our culture to a certain degree. We honor the people that are in the spotlight. We honor people that are in the public eye, no matter what they've done. We honored all the people in the O.J. Simpson trial, not because they were terrific people, but just because, or in the Monica Lewinsky case, we honor fame for fame's sake. We don't honor it because somebody's done something wonderful for the world. And so, and by the way, people honored me for being on TV for giving them bad news. It wasn't like I was changing their lives for the better. And yet, because they knew I had a recognizable face, they'd say, oh my goodness, you're Jenny Dean, can I have your autograph? My husband used to make fun of me, rightly so, like, oh my God, he would make fun of that, which was good. But yes, I was honored for giving people bad news because I was on a screen and I was in the spotlight. And then when I became quote unquote just a mom, nobody honored me anymore.
Right.
And I thought, isn't this funny? People honored me when I was giving them bad news, but they didn't honor me when I started raising the next generation, which is so much more important. And so suddenly I opened my eyes to the fact that so many moms across the country and across the world really must feel entirely insignificant because we're honoring Miley Cyrus or Angelina Jolie or whoever. Actually, Angelina Jolie is now a prolific mother. She's had a lot of kids adopted her and biologically. But we honor all these people that are in the spotlight for not doing wonderful things. And these moms are in the background doing the most important thing, raising up little humans to change our world, and people aren't honoring them in that role. And I saw the contrast, and it saddened me.
As you were saddened, what was your thought? Detail as much as you can your thought process that moved from that moment that you lost that religion, that idol, to really realize the importance of motherhood and that I want to do something about it.
Well, interestingly, God saved me through my son. And I'm not saying my son is a savior, but he used my motherhood to save me. My son reminding me and being the arms of Jesus literally or figuratively.
Sure.
And it was almost as though God was signaling to me, look, I made a point of rescuing you and helping you find your salvation in a mothering moment. And as I stood up from that moment and God showed me that his true light shining through me as a mother was so much more important than that spotlight I used to be in, I thought, I have to honor every mother. I need to go back to the media and honor every mother and remind her how important she is, even if the world is turning away from her in that role and not honoring that role. So that birthed the idea of I'm going to be a mouthpiece for motherhood, and I'm going to lift mothers up and encourage mothers. So it started very small. We did a little internet thing, and a little 4 people watched in a year. We did some stuff online, and then slowly he kind of came to me. People offered me a radio show on sports talk radio. God has a sense of humor. There I was speaking to all men about motherhood, but it was good to get my feet wet in that way and not have to be a rock star and be terrific right out of the gate, because there was all 5 women and however many men were listening.
But that's a message men need to hear too.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
And then I went to one other network, and then I landed here at Salem, which is what I had on my whiteboard. I always wanted to land at Salem because it has a great network of radio stations that are going to have an audience that needs my message and the message God gave me. So that's how it started, Tom. And then it grew into, I need to help moms on the ground too. And God showed me that. He showed me a whole scenario in a prayer one day. You need to go out and reach to moms on the ground, not just through the airwaves, but also on the ground. So we now minister to single moms, moms in prison, homeless moms, lonely moms, depressed, whatever we can do. We have various ministries to address moms who need help on the ground and not just through the airwaves.
Now, I've said I want to get to your book, the specifics of your book, but again, capitalizing on your reporter instincts, you no doubt are conscious of what is going on in our culture today.
Yeah.
I mean, there are just so many things that are just destroying so many aspects of our culture. And one is motherhood. Is our culture is saying motherhood is, not important, or even should be destroyed through abortion and so forth. Motherhood is a burden.
Yes. And thank you for bringing that up. This is a touchy topic. It's a political topic. I am somebody who takes seriously that God says, judge not that you be not judged. So this is not me about to make some statements that say, oh, I judge women who've had abortions. I judge women who are on the other side of the political aisle. That's not what I'm up to. What I'm up to is to say that in our culture, I see us slowly tearing down the original divine design. And the original divine design, in my estimation, because it's what unfolded in the garden, is a man and women who came together to be fruitful and multiply and have many children. God endorsed and blessed the concept of a woman becoming a mother and a man becoming a father and them doing it together. It doesn't work perfectly. We're all sinners and we all have messy marriages and we don't raise our children perfectly well. I get all that. I get it. But I see now in our culture where we're screaming in front of Supreme Court justices' homes, I watched a woman say, "You cannot make me have this kid." And another woman stabbing a baby doll. And I thought, motherhood is now seen as truly a burden. And you cannot make me bear a child that's convenient for me at this time. There is no concept of sacrifice being a desirable, because motherhood can be sacrificial.
Sure.
But people are saying, how dare you make me sacrifice? How dare you make me make this decision when it isn't ideal? I don't have enough money right now. I'm not in a place in my career that I want to be. And it's a very calculated thing now. I only can have a child at the perfect time. And so I think that as we are screaming for that choice, we are also diminishing the role of motherhood. And I know it's not boiled down to quite that, simple of a statement. But I do think we're diminishing motherhood in the abortion debate, and we're saying it's just really not that desirable anymore. It's kind of a burden. You don't want to have too many. You don't want to have them at the wrong time. And I think this is not what God intended. It's not what God intended.
Yeah. You've got to go back to what God intended, and I'm glad that you had said that.
I want to interrupt though.
Yeah.
I have burden and a heart for the moms or for the women who can't have babies. So I don't want to just make that assumption that, because I'm sure there are moms listening and think, well, I couldn't have a baby and it's precious to me and whatever. But I'm just saying there are all kinds of women, but that come at motherhood in different ways or are not able to be mothers, and I have compassion for that.
Or who adopt.
Correct. Or foster.
Or foster. And Lord knows the answer has got to be, aside from abortion, the answer has got to be more and more people stepping up and adopting.
Correct.
And foster children and so
forth.
forth.
If we're going to encourage women to have babies, then we have to be there to help when it's needed.
That's right.
Our churches need to be working on that.
Absolutely. In addition to chapter 1, which profiles your life, and it's a great chapter. It really gives us a great insight into you, the person behind Channel Mom, the person behind the book, Mom, You're Amazing. I want to, at the end of every chapter, you put an amazing secret that was espoused by, or at least demonstrated by, that person that you profiled in that chapter. You one chapter each profiles a mom.
Correct. And they each share a secret. And that's the great takeaway of the book. You pick it up, and there are 8 featured moms who all share their best mothering secret. So if a mom just wants a little leg up, it's a wonderful book for that reason, to say, let me find out other moms' secrets and how they came to them and how they parented in a way that was a help to their children. That's why the secrets are a good, hopefully something that'll bless mothers.
So the purpose then is for the moms you're profiling to give their secrets to moms around
the world, hopefully.
Right.
That is the idea.
I chose one, Gretchen Carlson, only because she's well known. You have other moms that are not well known. You have moms have had just amazing struggles who give us their secret here. But I at the end of every chapter, like you say, you have a profile of that particular mom's secret. Can I read Gretchen's secret?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
And we should say Gretchen Carlson, former Fox News anchor, former Miss America.
Former Miss America, Fox and Friends news anchor. And it's Gretchen's amazing mom secret. Give yourself a break because no woman can have it all. Now, here's a woman that
who seems to have it all.
It says, why you are amazing, number 5. And then your amazing secrets at the end of every chapter, you say, reread often. I mean, you got to get in your heart.
I take the woman's secret and then I expand on it to speak into the mother who is reading the book, into the reader's life, to say, look, this is why you're amazing based on what that particular mom just said.
Give yourself a break because no woman can have it all. Now, to get it in your heart, reread often. You do so much as a mom. You are a teacher, nurse, chef, chauffeur, cheerleader, maid, counselor, playmate, party planner, professional shopper, artist, wardrobe consultant, pastor, and giver of endless hugs and kisses. You are enough. You don't have to try to be everything.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. I mean, that really.
Like, I needed that today. Almost brought tears to my eyes. Yeah, you just need to know that, you know, as a mother.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about the 7. You had mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned it during our broadcast or you mentioned it before we started, but you had mentioned that you like numbers and you like biblical numbers.
I do.
And the number 7 is a biblical number for completion. Did you see these 7 different moms, other than you as number 8, these 7 different moms, as sort of a scale?
Yeah, a complete picture
Yeah.
from God. I prayed that God would bring me who He wanted me to profile. I wanted women of all colors and backgrounds, and you know, not all creeds. Most of the women are Christians, but we had 1 or 2 that were not. I just wanted a whole perspective for a mom picking up a book to say, oh, this addresses this part of my life. This addresses this part of my life. So I picked 7 women other than myself. And the first was Yvonne Pointer, a woman out of Cleveland whose daughter was raped and killed. And her story is incredible. You have to, I mean, I can't tell you how many people have walked up to me and said, that story was life-changing. It's incredible. She forgave the man who raped and killed her daughter and went to prison to pray with him. And I think most moms say there's no way. But she really allowed God to live through her, and she honored her daughter, her deceased daughter, by the way in which she behaved after her death. So Yvonne Pointer is all about forgiveness and turning your pain into something positive. I won't go through every single one and their secrets because I want people to pick up the book. But another mother was the mother of a bachelor that was on The Bachelorette. Not a huge fan of that program, the Bachelorette program, or the whole franchise, The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. But man, the lessons learned. And he was very gracious, and so was his mom, in sharing all the pain that he went through on that programming. His name was Blake Horseman, and he shared his story, and his mom shared her story about social media mayhem and all the pain that was caused in this young man's life through being sort of famous for 15 minutes and all that broke out on social media that was very harmful to him. He became suicidal. I mean, it was a mess. But that's so relevant for today, what goes on social media to our kids. There's a mom who fostered 103 children, all about the fostering and adoption process. Gretchen Carlson's story, all about, you may think a mom has it all, but pull the curtain back and you can see that she's got struggles just like you, and she's got lessons and secrets to share that will bless you. And that's Gretchen Carlson. I have a mom who's sort of well known in Christian circles. Her name is Michelle Couchat. She's an author, and she went through tongue cancer 3 times. And this woman spoke for a living. And the last time she was almost basically on her deathbed, wanted to die, was ready to go to heaven because she was in so much agony. But in the middle of it all, she adopted some children. She was trying to parent while she was on the couch, going through radiation on her tongue, throwing up, just awful circumstances. But she has an incredible lesson to share with moms in the midst of that. And then a mom who was abused horribly by her mother. She's a Latina. She's a Christian music singer. And she's also got a little bit of pop fame as well. You can find her on YouTube. Her name is Mari Burrell. And then finally, I profiled Kara Tippett, who some people may know from a Christian documentary called The Long Goodbye, where they profiled her death at age 38 and a half. She had 4 children between the ages of 5 and 13 when she passed away. And man, does she have a brave story. And she talks about mothering from the perspective of dying, and how she learned how to love in a way that was entirely unselfish and embracing the moment. Like, it almost makes me feel like a pain in my stomach and tears in my eyes for what she went through. But she left a lesson because God gave her that perspective of death and being headed to heaven and leaving her children and saying goodbye to them, of how you must live each day as a mother. It's a profound chapter, Kara's chapter, because of Kara. And that's the last chapter.
Lessons and secrets to share.
Correct.
From 8 moms.
From 8 mothers, yeah.
Yeah.
And a time where we need to be reminded, and mothers need to be reminded. This is. Let me say this just before we end.
Sure.
I am cheering you on from the sidelines. God sees you, and He has assigned you to this extremely important task. You're changing the world by the way in which you raise their children. Moms, I say, should be walking the red carpet of life more than any Hollywood celebrity with an Emmy or an Oscar. Moms should be walking that red carpet just to be honored for raising up God's children to make a positive difference in the world. None of us do it perfectly, but moms need to be cheered on and reminded how important their day-to-day job is when they're picking up banana peels, when they're changing dirty diapers, when they're cleaning the house, when they're chauffeuring somebody, whatever it is, it's important work.
At the end of the book, you have a summary of amazing secrets. Amazing mom secrets for amazing moms. This is for moms. But again, I think it's so important that men and dads need to hear these secrets too.
Yes.
Because we need to really, really appreciate what mom has done and does do.
Yes, and I will also say, my ministry is not 2 fathers.
Right, I
but
know.
the fatherhood role is immensely important, and they will see themselves in some of this as well, the importance of their job.
Believe that being a mom is incredibly important. In fact, I would say for men who might be watching this or listening to this, think about your own wife, the mother of your own children, and think about, do you honor her in the way that you are calling for moms to believe that they should be honored and
to know their
see
job
themselves.
is important.
Yes. Believe that being a mom is incredibly important. Make a positive difference in response to your pain. Teach your kids kindness and respect. Make your kids a top priority. Give yourself a break because no woman has it all. Disciple your babies. Teach them about God's love. You don't have to repeat your mom's mistakes. Wow. Wow. And then love big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8. Yeah. Each mom has a secret to share.
And there they are.
Yes, there they are.
And it's all in this book. Mom, you're amazing, changing the world one life at a time. And I like what you had just said a moment or two ago, lessons and secrets to share from each of those moms. Where can people get Mom, You're Amazing?
Thank you for asking, Tom. There's a website called momyouramazing.com. You can just go to momyouramazing.com and you can click to order there. It's also on Amazon, like most books, and it's Mom, You're Amazing. You might also have to put in the author's name because sometimes it comes up with cups and things that say Mom, You're Amazing. So Mom, You're Amazing, Jenny Dean Schmidt.
Okay.
And I would be honored if people go look it up and purchase it. It's a great gift when Mother's Day rolls around again and for Christmas and things like that.
And also on this video, people can click it and they'll be able to buy it there too.
Oh, thank you for that, Tom.
Jenny, I'm just really, really thrilled to talk to you and just see the progress of your ministry with Channel Mom. This book, I thought it was great.
Did you really?
I'm serious.
Okay.
I'm serious. I read it and I know it's for moms, but man, dads really should read it too.
Oh, that's good to know.
I really believe that.
And let me say thank you to Donna for raising babies well. And I'm thankful to God for motherhood. And Donna would agree with me. It's a tough job, but it is the most marvelous job.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.